Hello and welcome to Scrapping on the Fly. My name is Kristen and I am here with day 9 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life. Here is our sketch from Niki Rowland, and that is Bella Boulevard. And it's got some mixed media and a big title. There's not really a set place per se for a picture, so we're gonna just do what we want. And Dottie About Flair has sewing as their prompt for today. And it looks like they've got some sewing right across. Not sure if I'll do that, but I am going to do a little sewing somewhere. I decided to use my Paige Evans Bungalow Lane papers, and that's all I have is papers and that little kit of washi right there. That is the only thing I have for this collection. So we're just going to see how that works out. And then also, those in the circles looks like mixed media to me, so I pulled my Tim Holtz Ranger alcohol ink pearls, and I pulled 4 colors, but I plan on only using 3, but I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, so I just pulled these 4. Not that they're far, they're right next to me. And then I have these Jolie's by You florals that I've had since like 2007, and then I have these amazing Dottie About Flair. I have 2 Flair and an epoxy. I'm not sure which one I want to use, but I will pull at least one of those onto my layout. And then I have this really cool vellum from Recollections, and it's got like text, cursive print on there that just has some really neat phrases, and I just really think it's neat. I already said that once. So I also have these stickers from the Paper Studio of some florals. And then here are my 2 pictures. One is a wreath and one is some of the flowers from the wreath. My daughter is holding them. And I originally picked it because I thought that I might cut that into a circle, but I've changed my mind. I also picked it for today because today is my grandmother's birthday and these are from her funeral. So I thought it would be a good day for that. So I've got my pictures, some paper, embellishments, my sewing stuff, some inks, and some flair and a sketch. So let's see how this goes. The first thing I wanted to do was trim down this picture because that's going to kind of give me an idea for where the rest of my layout is going to go. So I'm thinking I want to put the picture of the wreath up at the top, and then I want to cut this picture of the flowers into a circle. So I just have these little stencils that I've cut from other paper, and I'll just hold it with my thumb, good pressure on my thumb, and then move what I'm cutting, not my scissors, although I'm not always really good at that. And that's the best way for me to cut a picture because I cannot cut a circle. So I get that done. I'm happy with that. So then I'm going to pick my paper out, and these are the 2 that I had already looked at and thought about. My grandmother's favorite color was pink. She loved flowers, and of course there's flowers in this the pictures. So I am going to take that graph paper, and that is going to be my main base. And originally I just trim off the branding strip, but then I look at the sketch a little better, and it looks like it's matted. So I go ahead and look through my papers to determine what I want to use, and I feel like this blue floral, it's going to be that pop of color that I need, and I like the way that looks. So I go ahead and trim the graph paper down to 11.5 by 11.5, which is pretty typical for, I think, most people. But that's definitely the size I'd normally go with unless there's something on that border that I really want to be visible. So I am just looking at how I want to put this picture based on the sketch and everything. And this right here is in the general idea of what I'm going to do. So my plan is to put the picture up in that top left corner and use that circular picture in the middle circle. So I take away, I don't know how bad this will bleed through, so I go ahead and that's where I tested out my inks. I go ahead and take the back page and set it aside and get out. I just used the ending of like the first page or the back page of a paper pad to ink on if it's something like this. If I'm spraying, then I definitely spray in a box. But if I'm inking like this, then I just do it on one of these cardboard pieces. so that way it doesn't bleed onto my mat. So I get this laid down and I decide which color I want to start with, and I'm going to do the shiny shimmery in the middle, and that is actually called Smolder. And oh, you're going to get to see me like shake it up. I usually cut that out. So Smolder is kind of like a brassy, it's not really gold, but it's kind of a brassy, so I'm trying to decide where I want to put it. And I'm okay with this being a thicker circle, and I was not aiming for a like real circle, because that wasn't going to happen. So then the next color that I'm going to go to the right with, I think right's next. So the next one is going to be the green, I think. I just did this, you all. Oh, bless my little soul. Yeah, it's the green, and the green is called Envy. And like I said, these are all pearls, and I love them. And I didn't want this one as thick as the Smolder. I wanted it to kind of have that wispy look, or yeah, the wispy look. So I did not fill, like the circle that I made on my little dauber for the Smolder was a full circle. The circle I made for the Envy was kind of just in an outside circle, and I didn't fill it in. And I did the same thing with this blue, which is called Celestial. And these came from two different kits that I got at probably Hobby Lobby or Joann's. Look how shiny that is. Oh, I love these pearls. So I go ahead and get it matted down, and I just use some double-sided tape. I've been using my Scotch Runner to get things down, but I didn't want it to move once I got it situated, and so I just put it down with some double-sided tape on the corners. Plus, I didn't know if I was going to have to pull things up to do the stitching, which what I should have done was any stitching I planned on doing, should have done that before I put it on the mat. And normally I do that. Like, I'll do everything I want on a layout and then mat it, but, you know, I didn't. So I decided like I wanted to use this washi in the middle instead of stitching all the way across like this. And this is washi from the Bungalow Lane, and it is like a navy blue with flowers. I guess you'll see that in the up close. I should have brought the washi roll up to you so you could see it, but I didn't, sorry. So this is the general idea of what I want to do. And in this video, I can tell that you can't really see the vellum, but I can see it in person. So that's the most important part. And there's a little bit of color behind parts of it, so you can see it in those places. So I use just some double-sided tape or this tape runner to attach it to the paper, but then I use some of my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to attach it to the vellum, and I am about to lay it down on the vellum and realize it's going to bleed through right onto my mat and layout. So I got smart for once here and go ahead and get that down, and I only put the vellum behind where the picture is going to cover, although you can't really see it for some reason. That usually you can see where the adhesive is like sticking to the paper through the vellum, but that worked out really well. I do go back and add a little bit more adhesive to that picture and behind the vellum. And then I get the circle one down and I'm going to lay it flat, and then I realize I really think that I want to put that up on some fun foam. So actually it's not fun foam I use, it's just I bought a pack of foam, thought it was fun foam. It wasn't. That's pretty disappointing, but I just cut it in a very poor circle. If you end up seeing it, yeah, nope, that's the way I cut, you all. It's not pretty. So I get that down, and then I use some double-sided tape to help secure it, but I also added some adhesive, some of the Nuvo Deluxe. So I get that down, and I like the way this is looking, and then I'm going to try and figure out what the next step is. So I get out my little floral bin, and I have flowers everywhere, but they are usually a lot bigger and not what I wanted. I really wanted something kind of dainty to just kind of sprinkle around. And then this is a Tim Holtz chipboard, And I wanted this on the layout, and I thought this is perfect because it would fit right underneath where I'd put that picture up on foam. And it just says, "In my heart," which is very fitting. My grandmother and I are very close, and she passed away the day after her 95th birthday. So I'm coming up on the 2-year anniversary, which is hard. So I knew that this layout would be emotional, but healing. I've done one lately, I think in February, for my father, who we lost 2 years before my grandmother. And so, to me, it's healing, and it just makes my heart feel better. It's sad for a little while, but that's okay. That's the wonders with scrapbooking, is that you can just really get your emotions into it. And so, anyway, and after the therapy session, so I just went around and sprinkled the flowers in not really specific places. I just put a little Nuvo drop down and then added a flower. I just don't want the same flower right next to each other. That's really the only rhyme or reason. So then I got my sewing kit out, and I decided I'm going to sew right below the vellum on the left side. So I get out my paper piercer and I put a mat under there, and I just pierce just a handful of little holes there and flip it and just do a few on the other side. Now the ones on the other side are not going to be in the same place. They're kind of similar, but not exactly right across, and I'm okay with that. I just wanted it to be on both sides. And I take some white thread that came in this little sewing kit, and I just sew a few stitches on the right side, and it gets about twice as many on the left side. And I'm just using some washi to tape those down so they don't come loose and they don't get caught on anything. And then I move all of my stuff out of the way, and I'm trying to figure out the next step. So I definitely want to get my Dottie About Flair on here. And I did choose to go with this pink. It's got circles on it. I thought that was most fitting since this layout is full of those. And so I think that I'm going to tuck it here. I'm trying to decide if I want to put this epoxy somewhere. I'm back and forth with it. I end up pulling the epoxy out from behind there and tucking in the flare. And I don't use the epoxy on this layout. It will go on another one, I'm sure. And then it's time for a title, and I should have thought of this beforehand because it was something I should have really put some thought into. And so I pull out anything that's gold or white. I didn't want to do black, and I could have used silver, but the only silver I have is like a shiny, glittery silver. So I think the white is going to make the best contrast. So I pulled this white sticker sheet out, and it is the Lucky Ones. It's gold glitter on one side and white on the other. And I pull that out, and I look over the words for a little while and finally decide that I want to go with Sweet Love. I thought about doing something about memories, or there were a couple other words on there that I considered. Moment, and family. I could have done family love, but family was really big, and I didn't want it to be that big. And it was definitely a sweet love between me and my grandmother, and my daughter, my grandmother, and she's the one holding those little flowers that came out of this wreath. So I get that sweet love down, and I had to maneuver it a little bit. And I pulled some of the hearts off of that same thicker sheet and put those around. And then I get my Tim Holtz Small Talk out and start by pulling 3 phrases out, and then ended up with 5. And on the bottom underneath the title, I just put "Just Breathe, Be Brave, and Keep Moving Forward." But then I also wanted to add a couple more that I pulled out that fit, that said "Love You" and "Use Your Wings." I thought those were fitting, but I wanted to put them in a different place. So I actually tucked them in up underneath the flare in that green circle. And then I did add another little chipboard thicker from the Escape the Ordinary, and it says "Smile," and I put it underneath the rectangular picture of the wreath, and tucked it up underneath the floral heart, the circle in the middle. And then I get my inks, my other inks out, and I start by testing out on the little strip that I cut some different pinks because I didn't want it to disappear, but I didn't want it to be like bam in your face either. So I tried a couple, and the one I ended up going with was the Abandoned Coral. It had a hint of orangey in it, and that ended up looking better with the different papers that I used. So I tap that out, and of course I cover the title, I cover the 2 pictures, and I tap out that Abandoned Coral, and then I get my White Delusions, which is white linen, and I tap that out as well. I use my heat tool to dry the Abandoned Coral a little bit first. So I didn't mind that there were some splotches because in the sketch there's definitely some, and that's why there's like a big blob at the bottom near the title, but I'm perfectly fine with that. It's not hurting anything, and it looks good. So I get all of that done, and I will say I do go back after I'm done with the camera and I add some Nuvo drops in a couple of different colors, and I added a couple of enamel dots in white and pink. So there's the sketch, and I'm going to show you some slow-mo close-ups. Please go below in the comments, sure. Please leave me a comment. But please go down in the description box and follow along with all the amazing people that are doing this hop as well. And have a great night and happy scrapping.